Welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Phil, you're a founder and CEO of HFS. We've known each other for running on 14 years. Really, really excited to have you here. So thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Very welcome, Gajen. Great to be with you.
What's been really, really exciting has been this new shift around GenAI. I think it's a generational shift. I think everyone would agree that it is significantly meaningful to the technology landscape. One of the things that is confounding to me, but also completely interesting, is there's been an estimated $400 billion that's been invested in the GenAI space. There's a belief that there can only be so many winners, and so therefore the investment is starting to slow down and moving to other parts of the GenAI landscape. Are you seeing anything interesting in this space?
25 years, the services industry has been on a fairly linear curve of growth, double-digit growth every year, pretty much since 1990-something. And now, for the first time ever, 2023 saw the industry very flat. We only saw 2% growth actually in tech spend. But what's happening now is clients, enterprises are increasing their tech spend to around 11% this year. There's a lot of money being put into, in particular, AI and other areas like cyber and 5G. But what's happened with GenAI is it's really caught the imagination of the C-suite. There's a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. November 30th, 2022, our industry everywhere was caught flat-footed by the launch of ChatGPT 3.5. Now, a lot of people are claiming they weren't surprised, but the reality was we all were. Well, this is like no code, low code for the actual business executive for the first time. So what this has done is it's made people smarter, slicker, quicker, and it's really increased the ability for people to learn and get better at what they do. But at the same time, it's a journey. Everybody's figuring this out. Every tech and services firm under the sun has launched some type of GenAI alignment, affiliation story. Some are claiming we have 200 case studies or 300. One big service provider came out to say they have 50,000 Copilot licenses, and others have 200-300. So there's some big shifts happening in terms of everyone's trying to one-up each other at the moment. But the reality is going to be, how does this change how we consume services, how we operate with each other? Because without clean data, without designing data infrastructure and processes and people skills to optimize GenAI tools, we ain't getting very far with this.
These startups are going to have a big influence in how that works. There are now organizations, even in India, orchestrating various different startups to come together in the AI space and then present to customers who are interested in buying very specific sets of AI skills or capabilities to embed into their organization as a means of sort of starting to make that pivot. So I can see that these investments, even if not many of these companies are going to end up winning, if you will, that they are going to be foundational to some of our clients and other service providers' ability to play in this space.
Oh, completely, yes. And I think those service providers which can really build out a successful, valuable ecosystem of startups and emerging firms in this space are going to be very valuable to their clients. And I really believe that this technology arbitrage shift is the ability to manage a fast-evolving ecosystem, because clients can't keep up with it.
Yeah, no, agreed. There is a bit of a race to win who has the better LLM or Copilot. Is what they're building helpful to our clients?
If you're a service provider, you've been delivering, could be bread and butter, business services, could be supply chain, could be procurement, could be application development for your clients for many, many years. You have a good knowledge of their institutional processes. So you're in a wonderful position to actually work with them to optimize the way we design workflow. And there's a motivation from the C-level executives on the client side to be successful in GenAI.
In my previous company, we had knowledge transition, where you took all this information, you put it into an Excel spreadsheet or a database. In many cases, we had better knowledge of what a customer process was even before a customer did. One of the biggest challenges had always been, how does the customer consume it? By and large, our customers always wanted somebody to go to. They always had someone or a team or a group that they would always engage. And I feel like this technology forces changes on both sides. And you've talked a bit about GBS, for instance, and how GBS or Global Business Services are going to fundamentally change. And in many cases, those services are outsourced to a service provider who's delivering that service. So talk to me a little bit about how you see that happening from both sides of the coin, if you will.
This is starting to bring around a bifurcation between sort of effort-driven services and data outcome-driven services. So rather than thinking, I'm going to pay you $10 million a year to provide me with these 100 people to deliver this service, it's going to be, I just want the service delivered to quality, right? I don't care about how many people you're providing at me. I know this costs me X a year. Now, what we're seeing from a lot of enterprise leaders is they're going to their partners, their providers, and saying, I'm not going to decrease spend with you. I want to spend the same, but I want more for what I'm spending. So what GenAI is doing is it's driving people to say, I want more data, I want slicker service, I want better support, more technology savvy capabilities delivered back to me, and I'm going to spend the same amount of money with you. Now, the more enterprises demand that, the more you start to build out test cases with your clients to build out the new model. Now, I'm going to rewind back to the 90s, 94, 95. BP, British Petroleum at the time, did a huge outsourcing deal. I think it was Anderson Consulting at the time and Price Waterhouse, which became IBM, and one did upstream, one did downstream. Anderson Consulting eventually became Accenture. These were the biggest labor-based transformation deals that were conducted. There was a lot of ERP management, SAP, there was a lot of data, there was a lot of labor arbitrage. But what they did was they built the model. For the next 25 years of our industry. The Indian heritage providers all jumped on this a few years later with their own capabilities, often lower cost offerings as well. But that created the labor arbitrage model of the future. We've finally reached the point where there's no more growth in that market. And the only way to find the next wave of growth is through one, outsmarting your competitors, and two, delivering in a way that isn't dependent purely on people, but on value. So your clients will spend more money if you can help them make more money. You can help them delight their customers.
And so you've talked a lot about the shift from labor arbitrage to technology arbitrage. So I'd love to hear your take on the tech arbitrage, because it could mean different things to different people.
The shift is delivering services that can deliver outcomes to clients that are primarily based on technology that's enabled by people, than just buying people supported by technology.
So flipping the model.
Yeah, you're buying data, really. Do you care how many people they got processing checks and things like that? No, you want to understand the data of the outputs. And there's so much technology available to run these services more efficiently. There's great automation tools, there's great API tools, there's obviously GenAI tools out there. We've been using machine learning for over a decade now. The foundational AI, which is really what's coming out into the fore, to generative AI, which we're now using today, and to something I'm calling interactive AI in the future.
What are customers asking you when they call you up to say, I want to do code generation or organizational intelligence? What are they coming to you with?
Some just want to drive out cost. Some looking for more value. Some looking for more data. Others are looking for better teams to work with within their service provider as well. There's often complaints that they don't get enough highly qualified talent who have certain expertise at their disposal. The other thing I have noticed is that customers are much more willing to talk to us and go on record. People want to say, hey, look what we've done, isn't this cool? Like, people are proud of their achievements with technology. And I think the way to win here is to find customers who want to be excellent at what they do. They're willing to take a bet on somebody they think is going to make them heroes in this business and do things differently, because the amount of change that companies have to go through to get to the point where they can truly exploit GenAI is painful.
Is there a parallel you can draw to the past, like where you see this type of level of engagement from customers, openness to share what they're doing and learning?
Honestly, the closest I've seen is when the internet came of age in the 90s. And everyone had to get an online presence, and you had to take a lot of manual to electronic, and it took 15, 20 years for many businesses to get from very archaic states to the states they're in today. And you still look today at the amount of IDP solutions, like document processing out there, and these big archaic banks and insurance firms and healthcare organizations, they're still going through very basic digitization of analog. And this is taking it all to a new level. So companies that are slick, they're focused, they're not beset by many different types of code and many different types of technology debt they have, can move fast.
Yeah, I see. How does it change if I'm a service provider with either the debt that you come with, right? Which in this case is people in some cases, right? You have a significant amount of people that are delivering this work. Or if you're a new service provider, what do service providers need to do if they are making the pivot versus how would a new service provider approach the same opportunity?
It's a super question. And I think we're going to start to see very specialized services providers emerge who aren't necessarily your $10 to $20 billion juggernaut.
Yeah.
They're going to be smart companies that could specialize in one particular industry. Could be like a healthcare company which really understands GenAI and related technologies. Something in banking modernization. We are seeing the emergence of a whole mid-tier.
What happens if you don't adapt as a large service provider? The pace at which GenAI has taken off and that we still feel like we're in the early stages of this technology move, what does that mean to service providers who don't move fast enough?
It means there's a flattening and a commoditization happening in the sector. I mean, you can look at other businesses like telecom 20 years ago. A lot of the telecom providers couldn't make the shift from being telecom providers to digital voice providers and IT firms. The same's happening now. Some of these service providers are going through a lot of pain.
What's driving that?
Cost. It's also the post-pandemic world. This kind of hybrid work environment has made people a bit more exposed. And then you've got these aggressive service providers who are used to winning on cost, having to really cut to the bone.
Back to the labor arbitrage, tech arbitrage. India, Philippines, in some cases China, Indonesia. There was a lot of push to drive costs down by outsourcing work there. How do these countries, which were considered to be leaders in driving the cost arbitrage equation, pivot to the tech arbitrage equation?
They need to become very good at the new technologies, understanding them and being able to work with clients to implement them. That's a tough shift, particularly, I'd say someone like India, which has been the talent bed for tech for 2 or 3 decades now. They're threatened by this. There's a little complacency of, oh, it's just another technology. But the ultimate thing is you've got to learn how to think about this technology, and it requires a probabilistic mindset than a more of a technology mindset. If you're a legacy coder, you're out of business. Right? You've got to figure out how do we drive code faster and smarter and slicker than ever before. And how can we really help companies modernize their applications and their infrastructure faster than ever before? When companies are going through change like they're going through now, they need partners more than ever. They need security partners, they need tech partners, they need people who can help them with their data. There's a lot of need for help. So the winners are going to be those who can develop the talent, who can support them, who can actually engage, understand business context, think through problem solving with their clients, really get closer to them. And that's where I think we're going to find the answers. Providers aren't really doing that. They're just focusing on cost and let's keep going cheaper, cheaper, cheaper.
How do we create this culture and mindset shift that requires sort of self-motivation to learn, change, and engage differently with this technology?
I would reward some of these companies for effort in trying to work with their clients as closely as possible to figure out what these GenAI models are all about and how to achieve success. You need clients who are willing to change as well. You think the services firms are going through turmoil, the clients are going through it. How do we find success with these GenAI models? How do we have a faster route to our customers? How do we get ahead of our competitors? So there's a lot of fear and anxiety out there.
There is, right? And what's interesting is one of the things I'm seeing is there's pressure from both sides, whether you're a CIO, CTO, or even a business leader who's investing in tech. There's board pressure down, right, or C-suite pressure down. And then there is tech pressure, market pressure. And then you have service providers who are trying really hard to catch up and to deliver value. You end up in this lowest common denominator stuff, right, which is efficiency, automation, code generation type stuff. It delivers savings and cost efficiency and so on and so forth. But I'm not sure I see a path to product innovation, next generation services, doing things fundamentally differently. So beyond just purely the cost and automation arbitrage, are you seeing real application towards a new generation of either products or services or new markets emerging even?
It's going to require some brave clients and providers willing to take a risk with them to create the model for the future and the model that's going to create what BP did in the 90s.
Right.
We need to see another few examples like that, where a couple of enterprises are going to go out there, sign big high-risk deals with their service partners to build out a GenAI type capability. And then you need providers with the confidence to go to clients to say, we'll do $1 billion deal with you over 5 years where we're going to transform your business. And we're going to do it with technology. And we're going to deliver this back to you and help your clients navigate this GenAI journey with them. There's also a lot of distrust of some of the hyperscalers. Some of these companies are beholden to AWS right now, or Microsoft, and they want to have a partner who can actually help them navigate the waters more effectively. I think there's opportunities with the rapid shift in the environment for the new breed of service provider to come in and really work with their clients to be effective. That means that winning providers are those who have the skill, the talent, the leadership, and the training to get ahead of the rest. You've got to train up people with a different mindset. You've got to go out and boldly win some business to prove the model. You've got to be able to orchestrate the ecosystem. You've got to have clients willing to take a bet on you. It's as simple as that.
Is there the possibilities of a new cadre of providers that have a strong enough brand to stitch a lot of this stuff together and bring it to a customer, or do it on behalf of a customer? Or do you think customers are going to mostly rely on their existing cohort of service providers to stitch all this stuff together?
That's a very good question. I think it's a mixture of both. I've spoken to some senior level leaders within some of the biggest companies in America, for example, who don't have a ton of confidence in the existing array of service providers. There's little elements of daylight within some providers, but it's limited. And then there's others which are just not, they talk a game, they've got some frosting, but they're not really delivering right now. We'll see this shift a little bit over the next 6 months. It's not helping that there's a squeeze on with spend on services in general, so there's a lot of pressure on some of these providers just to hit their quarterly numbers. And those that are privately held are the ones that I'm very excited about. I know a few where they've either gone private or there's private equity investment being pumped into some of these companies who can be disruptive. So if I was a publicly traded, multi-billion-dollar service provider right now, you're scrambling to make your numbers. You're getting squeezed in all directions. And as much as you want to, incubate your GenAI capability, as much as you want to be the provider for the future, you're trying to satisfy the quarterly numbers. And I read the Wall Street analysts, and all they want to talk about is cost cutting and profitability. Not, are they really building something out for the future?
So Phil, if you had one piece of insight or advice to a client, what would that be in this space broadly?
Try and change what you got. Try and unlearn old habits and learn new ones. This is the biggest problem right now. We saw this with RPA when that came in 10 years ago.
I remember,
The problem you had there was a CFO would get excited about RPA and then dump it 2 or 3 layers down the organization, and it all gets buried in the middle management. GenAI, I see similar things happening. Clients are taking it, they're sort of trying to make it look like they're doing good things, but in the reality, what are they really doing? This time I think, stop hiding. Try and unlearn these resistance habits of the past and be much more open to change. How do we do things differently? How do we listen to true One Office where our employees really are in tune with our customers? And how do we understand the differences between brand loyalty and customer experience? The customers are only loyal to a brand to a certain point. When is it that you've just had enough of that airline?
And does your generative enterprise start to encapsulate that? And within that, who needs to own this strategy in this new world?
I think it's got to come from the top. I think the CEO needs to own it, and that CEO needs to understand how to really implement this within their enterprise. Now, only half of tech spend is coming from the CIO. The rest is coming from the CMO, CFO, heads of supply chain, everywhere else in the company. So really trying to pull together, how do you change and transform? How do you generally look at what can these technologies bring to our organizations to make them more effective? How do we stop getting stuck in the middle? Why do we still have 80% of our tech spend is frozen? How do you free it up? So your advice is learn new things.
And be transparent and dig deeper to understand what's going on within your organization. Flipping that question over, Phil, to service providers, what would your advice be to them?
Convince your clients to take a bet on you. Stop focusing on the what and the how. Everyone has got their PowerPoint decks, and we have 200, 300, 400 use cases. We have this, we have that. Focus on the why. Mm-hmm. Why the hell should I work with you? Why should I take a bet on you? I was speaking to the CEO of a call center business recently. He said, all my clients want GenAI, but they don't want it from me. They just want call center, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you convince them to say, hey, no, we can do GenAI too? Yeah. So why would somebody invest in these solutions with you? Why are you different? Mm-hmm. How are you training your people differently? Where are you making your investments? Can you really bring the ecosystem to the table?
And it's interesting that you say that, Phil, because I remember, going back maybe 10 years or so, when sort of between app dev and digital engineering, right? When we made that shift to, using a sort of a product engineering methodology to build applications within an organization. It was sort of interesting to see customers sort of bifurcated their budgets to say, this is all digital, so this will go to this provider or this group of providers, and this is all legacies. In today's world, I don't think even a client can do that. You have to look at the entire landscape in order to get the best out of applying this type of technology.
Yeah, I think it's been a big leveler. The playing field is level. So right now, you got an opportunity to rise above the pack and prove yourself to be different. Because this isn't just a very high-level business transformation. This is right on the cusp of who understands the way to build a GenAI solution, who's got the skill sets to bring to the table, who's got the people. We're starting to see, I think, some emerge more than others in terms of really understanding the space and getting there. And then others, I think, are really struggling because it doesn't fit their revenue model.
It's a people model.
It's a people model, exactly.
Yeah. Phil, thank you for your time.
Absolute pleasure, Gajen. Great to catch up with you again.
Absolutely, and I really, really enjoyed this as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Excellent.
you.